could be a little bit weird to put this concept together. We're not used when we're talking about chaplaincy to talk about violence and belief and money and all this stuff. So why believe, money, violence, and chaplaincy? One of my friends asked me that yesterday. Why use the etymology of credere, that's been belief, with money? I answer him because we cannot separate them. We cannot separate them. United States of America, $1. In God we trust. They are together, the both sides, belief and also money. So, in pastoral care, it's difficult at times to approach suffering, other by using active listening, reflective listening, compassion also. Indeed, we will see that behind the clinical pastoral tools, there are hidden, implicit, and explicit opportunity for imposing belief and a kind of violence also. Like the concept of neutrality. It is possible to exclude our own preconception and any attempts for interpretation. So, in this presentation, we'll focus in the first part on etymology with money. And after that, we will see how the pharmacology will use the concept of belief to promote kind of disease also. And at the other end, the chaplaincy also will use, without knowing, a kind of pharmaceutical discourse. So, this presentation will show more dark side of chaplaincy. I'm a chaplain, so there's a beautiful side also. There's two things to this issue. I don't have the time. It's okay. And to mastering the English is not my first language, so to do the short piece, a positive piece, it will be another time. So the dark side we'll talk about. Oh, the text is it's the best side of the moon, if you ask me. So, in his research, the French linguist Émile Benveniste discovered that the economy concept is an integral part of the etymology of credere, of belief. In this economic perspective, the notion of believing himself is defined as a register of trade, confidence, and certainty. In this respect, belief means entrust one thing with certainty to recover it. This notion implies an exchange of value. So there's a credit granted for a return of interest, favor, or money. Curiously, it is the structure, belief economy, which is taken from a religious point of view, since the belief is then defined as an act of confidence in God, involving restitution in the form of divine favor granted to the faithful. Considering this definition helps us to show that the notion of believing is a dimension that concerns the register of trade and that requires confidence and uncertainty, since it does not guarantee a return of the object or the loan. There is a risk in believing, despite law and commitment. According to Marc-François Lacan, credere also means something else. In this perspective, believe would mean giving is hard. So when there's a chaplain and another person, it's not money, it's not the value, but the central notion is heart. Do I take his heart or not? Or his soul? Point two, how the philosophical concept of universal and particular in the marketing area, how they use it. Of course, pharmacology do a lot of great things, and with drugs, with treatment, it's important also. But they use the concept of belief to promote disease or money, to have more money. Pharmacology has made a major shift in its marketing approach for healthcare and spiritual care, both of them. Indeed, the key to success resides in using philosophy to its service, specifically the category of the universal and the particular. For example, one objective of the Merck pharmaceutical company is to sell to everyone. To do this, pharmaceutical institutions, in collaboration with physicians, must universalize the symptoms. So the definition must be large, include more people to sell more. Example for depression. More you include different kind of sadness, more you can sell drugs. Also, another point, in neurology, it's not a definition like strict definition of neurology and Alzheimer's. Has an impact to exclude also other definition. Could be psychologist, could be chaplaincy definition, theological definition, or other one. And there's a particular thing about this definition. It's one of the only one definition that condemns the patient to his disease. There's no issue, no hope. It's only neurological. There are chronic disease, some incurable, but never by definition, only because appropriate treatment have not been found. In fact, the definition is in neurology is irreversible, and the progression is at infinity. Will never stop. So that condemns patient to become also demented and without issues, without hope to a better world or a better change. So the goal of neuroscience is successful, to save at all costs, without absolute proof, the medical definition. We fight for medical definition. Of course, there's neurological problem, but not only neurological, could have other problems. It's clear beyond the rhetoric of universality and well-being of person, there are an economic handling of the concept of belief that the ultimate challenge is to increase the income of pharmaceutical institutions. These companies modulate their public campaign using the same approach as before the Catholic was using when they were doing pastoral. Employed at least to increase its income, they use fear. It was the same pattern as the Catholic was using. Fear to have money. So there's some impact on chaplaincy also. this kind of discourse of universality. So one is that conception. If it's more universal, the particularity of the word of the person will lose that. Opposition of concept and thought instead of the undefined and undetermined concept certainly helps to live together and to develop a universal language. But this universalization somehow betrays the uniqueness of each word. According to Nietzsche, such a hermeneutics of universal is described as to violate, arrange, shorten, skip, file, imagine, and distort the essence of interpretation. There could be a kind of a violence when we listen to a patient and with the concept of universal and also neutrality. That when the patient talk to us, we are not neutral. We choose a word or a phrase to respond to them. But this is a personal choice. I remember when I was with my supervisor, one of the patients wanted to have two chaplains in their room to talk at the same time. So we said, yes, we will go. And I was not asking question or grasp a word the same as he was doing. I was focused on love. He was focused on sadness. So we choose a path. We're not neutral. So neutrality brings a certain violence in chaplaincy. There's other one, the stage of the grief, 5 stage or sometimes there's 6, 7. This also carry an ideology behind. And I will say capitalist idea is the progress towards success where failure is intolerable. We have to reach the last stage, accept. One of the violence that could be possible is to try to, like Michel Castra showed in his book, to manage the discourse of the patient, to bring him to acceptance. So this is a kind of violence we can. And the third one, it's the definition of spirituality, the most popular one, from a teacher of Harvard, Oxford. They exclude a lot of people. I will say this is also kind of capitalist definition, cognitive definition. So Sandra Schneider, she's one of the most expert in spirituality. Spirituality is the experience of conscious involvement in the project of life, integration through self-transcendence toward the ultimate value one perceives. These contemporary definitions have their merit, but they are philosophically questionable with regard to dementia and autism. For example, such definitions of spirituality are certainly not inclusive, since human spirituality is defined in terms of consciousness and cognition. Such definition of spirituality does not seem to apply to people with dementia who have lost much of their awareness and cognitive function. And I will say this is, most of the chaplains will use those kind of definition to work. In conclusion, compassion also could be doing with love, but it could also be compassionate killing, like said Stanley there was. By love, we can kill as exemplified by the case of euthanasia or other love crimes. But more subtle, maybe the murder of the speech and the act of listening, and the interpretation as, for example, the management of the death of people with the grief step, in terms of progress and success. Yet, Hegel warned us against words. He said words are the murder of the of the things. And Jean-Jacques Lacan, psychoanalyst and psychiatrist, will later say words are the murder of the being, of the human being. They could be. It is true that the word and their structure, in the same structure, carry a double, inseparable dimension, love and hatred. We oriented this short presentation on a slot, often neglected, that of violent hermeneutics in chaplaincy, practiced under the laws of marketing and profit that we can call the business of pastoral care. It seemed that the cornerstone of the concept of crocodile is very complex, by virtue of its essence, the elusive and the mysterious. A fundamental lack that will allow people to build themselves as a desired subject. Our analysis led us to observe that the movement of belief provides a dynamic exchange. Because it is a junction, at the junction of the act of believing and belief, that an hermeneutic can open a new space.
I might have a question that emerges from what I'm going to say. I just start with a comment. I think that this concept is absolutely brilliant, and it's kind of scary. And I've talked about this. I'm the only Orthodox priest among about 15 Protestant chaplains at a marriage and family therapy program. And what I keep hearing over and over and over again is this constant beating of the drum of, I am going to be, this is coming from my colleagues, I will be the agent of change in this exchange. You know, people are going to come to me with their problems, and I have to get good enough at this to fix them. That's my job. And as we have our conversations about case studies and such, we keep running into these moments, at least for me. They don't often see it, and I'm the only one that typically points it out. These moments where somebody manages somebody else's discourse, you know, for their own agenda, and how easy it is to fall into that mode. Yeah. It's very frightening to me as a people helper, as a pastor, a priest, and now a therapist, how easy it is to fall into that.
That's true.
Yeah. And so I appreciate being reminded of the danger of words.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, when they're used, when myself gets in the way and my agendas jump up and my words begin to reflect my agendas rather than my willingness to hear somebody else's story and try to inhabit that story, then things begin to go awry immediately. Yeah. And it's just a helpful reminder for me, and I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh.
I just want to thank you too. As I mentioned earlier, I work in hospice, so I interact with chaplains a lot, and I also work with people with cognitive loss and memory loss conditions, such as people with dementia and Alzheimer's. And I appreciate very much your very different take on this, your anti-reductionistic approach, and I feel an onslaught in psychology, and I think in all fields, of this utilitarian, very simplified kind of recipe-driven
Yeah.
approach to dealing with anything. What you were saying reminded me of where your treasure is, there your heart will be. Our treasure is in the encounter. I mean, the best of psychology is relational. And that's where we as Orthodox relate the best. It's about the mystery of the encounter, not about coming with a fix with 5 steps to
True.
perfection,
Yeah.
spiritual, psychological, or medical. And I really liked your metaphor that even in chaplaincy, which is spiritual support, there's danger of turning it into something else. There's a pharmacological-like terminology. And I hear this a lot where I work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I work in a hospital where I'm required to look at every encounter as outcome oriented. And I find it, it's a lot of pressure. And I happen to have a lot of patients who keep self-referring back. And it's been suggested to me that if they do, I haven't completed my role. And I am very committed to having open-ended, to the best of my ability, open-ended interactions. And I find myself really beginning to feel the hospital as a hindrance rather than a setting where I can do my work. So, thank you.
So my question is on the same line as was the last comment. What are your suggestions? How can we work with the members of the interdisciplinary team when we are sent to patient room with the agenda to change mind regarding the aggressive treatment, for example, or to sign the DNR? So how do you suggest us to work with the team to let them know what is our role?
As a chaplain, I try, but like I say, it's always scary. You never know if you put your agenda also, me also. To keep also when I enter the room and when I, with my team members also, that to always keep the mystery. There's no evident proof in any science. So if there's no proof in science, even in maths, physics, that means that the interdisciplinary work with the belief. We all together to believe something. So in this sense, we can work. I don't say it's easy or not. It's depend on the physician, it depend on social worker, all the team. But all theory, all framework are structured in the first and the thesis of belief. They cannot prove the first premise, even in maths. So we can work, I think, my hope is that all the team in the hospital or chaplaincy work with the belief. So that means that it's more open. Like dementia, it's not strictly a proof, scientific proof that they want to say. It's more a concept, open. So we don't work the same thing, same time, kind of. Oh yeah, it's through the middle.
It's part of my theological understanding. There is a passage in Ephesians. Yes, there is a passage in Ephesians where St. Paul is talking about letting the light of Christ shining in the darkness. I've always wondered if chaplaincy helped me as an Orthodox to bring Christ to what otherwise I called, darkness before, such as I was very, very afraid of stepping with somebody in, alcoholism or being angry. Until I found a way of engaging, maybe to use Dr. Popa's presentation, what's the good intention behind it. Is there a way for you and I, as caregiver, maybe as chaplains, of not joining the dark side, but maybe finding a good intention behind the dark side of this?
Yeah, it's possible.
To engage it, maybe in a way that could lead us towards Christ. I don't know.
Yeah. One of the approach that I developed. I don't go in the room for me with Christ or God or something like that. Even both sides, God exists or God doesn't exist, we don't have the proof. But at the end, it's the belief. We unite the both. So in this logic, to enter a room, for me, it's a beautiful sight. It's a love sight. So you're listening more to the belief of the patient in this kind of optic approach. So that doesn't mean I don't have my faith, but it's not the same if I said, oh, today begin my work and I will pray God, I'm the pastor, will go to see. No, I will go seek a person who believes in, I don't know. So, in something that we all together believe. We believe not as the same thing, but we believe. So. Final question.
I want to thank you. I was particularly struck by your talk about the limited definition of spirituality, especially when it comes to patients with dementia or patients who are unconscious. Because of my own personal experience in the hospital as a chaplain, where I will have a patient who is virtually non-responsive or totally confused, and yet knowing they're Christian, I'll say the Our Father, and they're right there saying the Our Father. Which to me, it's, if it's neurological, yes, but there's something else going on.
For sure, yeah. But you talk to them. You not say, okay, the dementia, neurological problem, we cannot do nothing. It's different to talk. So, yeah.
Thank you again.
Oh, thank you.